Okay, so you've decided to move beyond just access on your computer. You still have options to think about, a lot of options. One of those is, are you going to do a file server architecture or a database server architecture? With a file server architecture, this pairs with that fat client where those two tiers are being done by the client side or your computer usually. And like very little work is being done on the big bad server side. What does this mean? Well, when you're pulling data because you made a request, all of that information has to come over to your computer, which means that not only are you having a lot going on your computer, but a lot is going on in the actual network. So it's a really big, heavy load for everything to handle. Obviously, this isn't as big a deal with smaller things as it is for the bigger things. So scalability is the big issue here. An example of common file server architectures is if you have like Microsoft Access files shared on a network server. That's usually done in this where everything's being done on your computer. That is the one that is going to be doing all the work and crying, and it can just get a little sloggy. So again, fine for small scale stuff, but if you're going to, like not even Amazon size, but anything decently sized, you're going to want to think about the database server architecture, otherwise known as the client server approach. This is the opposite of that when the client is responsible for all of the business rules logic. So this is the thin client fat server side of it if you're doing the 2-level, where the server is doing all the data storage and all the access processing. When you send a request to the server, that request gets processed, the business rules and all that kind of stuff is handled on the other side of the connection, and then only the information that you want is being sent back to you. So instead of having to download everything that Amazon ever had into your computer, you just get your one little blip back. So why is this much better? The clients don't have to be as powerful. So your computer doesn't have to be a supercomputer, which is great news for most of us. It reduces the data traffic on the network. This is really important for, just the world, just thinking about like all the network connectivity issues that we're having with everyone on Zoom and all that kind of stuff. Like we see how network traffic can really be impactful when there's a lot of things going on at once in a way that we hadn't really seen that much. I think a lot of us hadn't really seen it in action much, but you can see like where computers and stuff get slow during certain times of the day when everyone's on it and things like that. So the more we can reduce that, the better. Also, data integrity is important because everything is processed centrally. So an example of this is, let's say that you're on Etsy and you have, you're looking at something and there's only one of the thing because Etsy has handmade stuff, right? So if I'm looking at Etsy and looking at this thing and you're looking at the same thing, if we both had to download all of the things onto our own computers to be able to look at the things and like put it in our cart and process that transaction and then send that information back, it's so slow that we could be buying it at basically the same time and both think that we got it, and then it gets back to the main server and only there was only one. And so we have a data integrity problem because when we got the data, it was available. By the time we sent it back, it wasn't for reals for one of us. And so the speed becomes important for things like that. Yeah, so if you have any sort of scalability, you really need to be thinking about this client-server approach. And Dr. Labrie's hot tip was that this is the type of differentiating question that could be an interview question for this type of work.